Are big changes coming for Social Security? On today's episode, we're going to dive into a recently released proposal to raise the full retirement age to 69 and what that could mean for your benefits, your future, and your financial security.
It's easy to get lost on the way to retirement. Things like taxes, improper planning, and excessive market risk can all lead you astray from your goal of a successful and happy retirement. That's where Liz Whittaberry comes in. She's a holistic financial advisor and the founder of Best Path Advisors, and she can help guide you to a better financial path. This is Retire on Your Best Path with Liz Whittaberry.
Hey everybody, welcome into Retire on Your Best Path with Liz Whittaberry from Best Path Advisors and myself, here to talk about Social Security shakeup, how raising that retirement age could possibly impact us. And really what this podcast and this report's all about is we're going to get into that from the Congressional Budget Office. So we're going to dive into this conversation with Liz. Kind of interesting stuff and certainly a worthwhile conversation, Liz, I think, because we've already seen some of this stuff start to happen around other parts of the world. And it's certainly been pieces that have been floated because we need to make some sort of changes to Social Security because, you know, we all see those things coming out about it running out in 2034 and so on and so forth. So thought it would be good for us to kind of walk through this today. So great topic that you found. I'm looking forward to talking about it. How are you?
I am good. I'm good. How are you?
Doing pretty good. Hanging in there. We were just chatting about my fellow North Carolinians right in this minute. So hopefully we can continue to help folks here, and hopefully this new hurricane, as we're talking, is not going to do too much damage. So fingers crossed, right?
Yes, absolutely. I've been certainly helping as I can here from Texas and watching and praying for everybody.
Yeah. Everybody who can, we certainly appreciate the help. That's for sure. And again, fingers crossed that this other hurricane, Milton, I think.
Yes.
Hopefully Milton doesn't do too much damage. Milton fizzles out. Hopefully would be great. But let's get into this conversation today, Liz. So this Congressman Brendan Boyle asked the Congressional Budget Office to provide information about the effects. Okay, so this is, I guess we should state, this is not law. This is not passed or anything like that. They're just doing some preliminary, I guess, investigation as to what it might look like or what kind of ramifications we could see if they increase full retirement age, right, the FRA, from 67 to 69. So let's talk about it a little bit. Let's talk about some of the key takeaways and get your spin on this and see what you think about this whole program. I guess just to start, what was your initial thought when you looked this over?
Well, it's something has to be done, obviously. And we know that something has to be done because the trust fund is going to run out of money. And if there's nothing done,
Right.
then they have to cut benefits. We almost ran out of trust fund money in the 1980s, and that's when they increased the full retirement age from 65 to 67. So we're now back in that position again.
A lot of people don't know that
years
either.
Later.
Yeah,
Yes.
A lot of people don't realize that, right? So it came very close to having a real problem once before. And then you think about the taxation of it as well, right?
Yes.
So initially it wasn't taxed, then it was taxed at 50%. Your Social Security and wages or income
Yes.
up to, and then now it's up to 85, right? Could be.
Yes.
So anyway, let's talk about some key takeaways. So first bit, the proposal increases that, to your point, that FRA up to 69. So what's some of the breakdown on that?
Well, it's currently the latest age is age 67. So that 65 got moved to 67.
Right.
Going forward, if this were to be implemented, then anyone born 1965 or later would begin to have their age increase. So 1965 would be 67 and 3 months, and then every birth year after that would add another 3 months until you reach age 69.
Kind of like it is now, right?
Yeah, for people born 1972 and later. So there's no impact if you're born before 1965.
Okay.
No impact on you.
Right. And then 72, see, this kind of surprised me. So I'm a 71 baby, right? So anyone born after 1972, they would move us to this, or they would move them. So like my wife, for example, would move them to the full retirement age of 69. So I would be one of those incremental ones, I guess, being born in 71. You know, I'm with you. I think that they're going to have to make some changes here. They're going to have to move some stuff back. I was a little surprised that they even touched anything in the 70s. I thought the first bit we heard on this would be something like if you were born like after 1980, for example, right? So I'm kind of surprised by that. Are you?
Yeah, I had previously heard proposals for them making changes to anybody that was under 50. And
Right.
that had a lot more time to adjust to a change. Yeah, so this is a little bit of a surprise that it is people that are already 59 will have a small impact.
Yeah. Yeah, it is a little bit surprising for sure. So, okay, so basically same exact thing as we're in now, right? So, it'd be that incremental thing. If you're born after 72, you now would have to wait till 69 to get your full benefits. So, what are the impacts that they're talking about, or what are the impacts that they're, I guess, and then this initial, viewpoint see could be an issue?
Yeah, they said that they are looking at it as you still get the same benefit, but just at a later full retirement age amount. So to get, let's say your benefit is 3,000 a month at
Okay.
full retirement age, that's currently age 67. Well, now you would have to wait to age 69 to get that 3,000 a month. And so that means that if you want to start earlier, you've got a bigger reduction. If you wanted to start at 62, that's 2 extra years. And the way the formula works, it's 5% a year. So that would be an additional 10% reduction in those early benefits. So
So, like,
instead of,
currently it's what, 30%, right? If
right,
you take it early. So, if your full retirement age right now is 67, as the law stands, you took it at 62, you're taking a 30% haircut. So, you're saying this would be 40, right?
it would be 40% because there'd be another two
Ouch.
years. It's 5/12% each month. And that's how that, so if you start at 62 in 6 months, it's not quite the full 10%.
Right, right.
But they did some calculations that if you're born in 1965, then you're age 59. So if you wanted to start at age 65 under the new rules, if this were to be implemented versus the old rules, you'd have a 2% reduction in benefit. Okay.
Interesting.
If you were born in 1975, you're age 52, then you would have a 12% reduction to start at age 65 versus the old rules, because as you move through this extension of the full retirement age, then you're getting a bigger and bigger reduction when you start earlier. And so those that are born right around that 1965, it's going to be a small percentage reduction. But once you get beyond that, it becomes meaningful.
Yeah. And I think when people hear, right, I mean, thank you for kind of giving us that extra little incremental breakdown. But I think when people hear, okay, just across the board, if you say, well, it's, you could be looking at a 40% reduction. If your full retirement age is 69, and you want to go early, because right now I guess they haven't even changed that as part of this, at least taking
Right.
a look at this, moving the 62, the early. You would think they would move that back as well. Like if they're going to move the one back 2 years, you'd think they'd move the early from 62 to 64. Maybe they still could, because again, this is just preliminary looking. But I think people see 40% reduction and they go, holy moly, right? Because that
Right.
could be, that could really change some retirement strategies.
It would, and it should. The other end of that, the delayed retirement credit age, they're talking about raising it to 72. So that was a positive in this, what the Congressional Budget Office was looking at. Again, this isn't law. They're
Right.
just doing some numbers, but they did assume that that would be raised 2 more years so that people would still be able to get those delayed retirement credits for waiting for the same number of years. So that was interesting because
Yeah.
I was not expecting that that would be something that happened. I was thinking if they raise the full retirement age, you're still going to have the same cutoff so
Right.
that they don't increase benefits as much. And that, again, helps them. And so that's what I was expecting. So that was a positive.
Yeah, I mean, so again, something's going to have to change, right? Because as we've all seen, and there's going to have to be some shifting, and longevity comes into this. We're all living longer, and we could get into that, a million times over when people have heard, that Social Security, when it was started, your full retirement age was 63 or 65, whatever it was, but life expectancy was about the same, so therefore not as many people were taking it. All that's changed, right? I mean, obviously, we're talking about not quite 100 years. I mean, this has been since the 30s, but we're getting close on 100 years, right? So it's been a while that this has been in place, and certainly stuff's going to have to change. How would it affect the income levels? Was there some breakdowns on that as well?
They did break it down by different categories and whether you were male or female. The thing that was really interesting was thinking through how it impacts anybody that's born 1965 or later.
Okay.
And what I want to point out is that if this would be implemented, everybody no matter who you are, if you're 1965, born 1965 or later, you're going to have a smaller amount of total Social Security benefits over your lifetime. That's just what happens because the formula then adjusts.
Okay.
And if you delay to the new full retirement age, you'll get your same monthly benefit, but you're going to get it for a shorter period of time because you had to wait 2 more years to
Yeah.
get that.
Just from a life
And
expectancy standpoint.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. We assume you're going to live the same amount of time that you would have lived. If you claim when you had originally planned to claim, whether that was 62 or 65 or 67, you'll be getting a smaller monthly benefit. You'll get it for the same number of years that you had planned to get it, but it's going to be a smaller amount that you receive each month. So everybody would have a smaller lifetime total coming from Social Security with a change like this.
Interesting. So let's talk quickly about the financial health of the situation. Again, raising this whole thing, right? So think about a couple of years ago, Liz, we saw in France, right? They moved the pensioner program from 62 to 64. Okay. And I don't know all the details, but that's what started like 30 days worth of riots, right? They were just having a fit over there. And the funny thing about that was
Right.
it was a bunch of people who wouldn't be retiring for 40 years anyway, but they were upset about the fact that it got moved a couple of years. And I believe in this particular, proposal, just this estimation is that even doing this is really only going to fix what, about 25% of the problem. So it still seems like there's
Right.
more changes are going to have to be made anyway. So I think to me that just kind of signifies that something has to happen. And even if you think about the changes to the Secure Act, pushing ages back for RMDs and things like that, it seems like the writing is on the wall because we have to look at the fact that we live into our 80s a lot, more and more now, right? So, or even 90s. And so if you're living longer, they've got to figure out a way to stretch this, for lack of a better term.
And we should be expecting that we will live longer because the people that are living into their 80s
And
probably
90s now,
thought they had
Yeah.
a 70 life expectancy.
Right. Yeah.
And now they're living into their 80s and early 90s and didn't expect that because longevity is increasing. But you're right, they did do the calculations. It does reduce the deficit by 24%. And if you look at that as a percentage of payroll tax, they pointed out that that would be, instead of 4.3% of taxable payroll, it's 3.3% of taxable payroll. That's the ongoing deficit. But that's a long game solution
Okay.
because it really stabilizes over the longer term and reduces the gap as a percentage of GDP. They're looking at 2054, 2078, 2098, way out. Over the short term, it doesn't have enough of an impact over the next 10 years to keep the trust fund from running out. So it still runs out because this is a long game solution. So we would still need, as you point out, something to solve this shorter term.
Yeah.
What that is, I don't know. I did do a YouTube video that's going to post maybe next Monday talking about 5 potential fixes. So anybody that's interested in that, go to the YouTube channel, Best Path Advisors, and subscribe so that you can catch that.
Yeah, for sure. And if you're, if you're looking, you want to make it easy, we'll have links in the show notes. I couldn't think of what I was going to say there. If you want, we'll make it easy for you. We'll put links in the show notes. And that way you don't have to worry about remembering or typing anything in. Just click on that and it'll take you there. And of course, that way you don't forget to subscribe to Liz on YouTube, as she just mentioned, or also Apple or Spotify for the audio podcast here that we're talking about these various different things. A lot of good content. And of course, if you do need some extra help, you can also just go to bestpathadvisors.com. That's bestpathadvisors.com. And you can get in touch with Liz and get onto her calendar, check out the services, check out the good stuff. That's where all the resources and things are, like YouTube as well. So you can go check that good stuff out. So what's your overall thoughts, Liz? Just kind of wrapping this up a little bit. Pros, cons, thoughts in general, just anything we should kind of have on the radar. Again, I want to stress this is not law. It's just they are starting to look at the fact that we're probably going to have to make some changes.
Well, I think a pro is that this is a way of strengthening Social Security to reduce that gap without cutting benefits for people that are already receiving benefits and can't probably go back to work, a lot of them.
Sure, yeah.
But the negative is that it's going to reduce benefits for anyone born 1965 or later. It'll also impact your spousal benefit. They'll have to wait longer. Their 50% of the worker benefit is going to be 50% of a smaller number. It'll impact the survivor benefit because they get 100% of the worker benefit. So that's going to be 100% of a smaller number. And then anybody that's impacted by the windfall elimination provision or the government pension in offset, that would be the same formula, the same percentage, but of a smaller number. So it's going to be a bigger reduction in those. So, there's some of the negatives. People need to be thinking about, what should I do to make sure that I am in control of my retirement? How do I need to think about covering all of the income that I need without relying on Social Security always being the same as it is now, because we're not in control of that. Something's going to be done to bring those numbers in line, and we don't know what it's going to be, whether it's going to be this type of proposal or something else. And so people need to be thinking about looking at their plan, running their plan, teaching kids and grandkids to start younger and save more, and just be in control of your own retirement future as much as you can.
Yeah, the writing does seem to be on the wall for that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we definitely have to start saving more, thinking about, the longevity of our own situations and how to self-fund a little bit better. So again, it's not passed, and I'm sure there's probably going to be numerous committees and the way they're going to look at this in various different things before they do anything. And unfortunately, our government has a terrible track record of getting things solved quickly. So this is one of those deals where I fully don't expect them to kind of get anything done with this before even 2030, knowing that 2033, 2034 is kind of the timeline issue there. So who knows, right? They tend to kick the can down the road themselves a lot of times. So don't freak out.
That is exactly what I tell people when we talk about this, because the last time they nearly ran out of money, it was going to run out of money in 1985, and they passed the new law in 1984.
There you go. There you go, right there. So don't freak out just yet, but take some action, right? Use it as a bit of a early warning system, right? That there's changes that need to be coming, they need to happen. And so if you're concerned about how it could affect you or just your strategy or just in general, say whether this happens or doesn't happen, I just want to make sure that I am set, for my own retirement with my loved one. Then make sure that you are getting on to Your Best Path with Liz and having a conversation with a financial professional who does this day in and day out. So reach out to Liz at bestpathadvisors.com. That's bestpathadvisors.com. Liz, thanks for breaking this down and bringing this to our attention. Good stuff this week.
Thank you. Good to talk with you.
Always good to talk with you. And you guys have a safe week out there. We'll see you next time. Don't forget to subscribe to us again on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. Retire on Your Best Path. Go check that out. You can find it in the search box of any of those apps, or just check the links today in the description of the show. And we'll see you next time here on the podcast.
The preceding program is sponsored by Best Path Advisors, which is solely responsible for its content. Securities offered through J.W. Cole Financial, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advice offered through J.W. Cole Advisors. Best Path Advisors, J.W. Cole Financial, and J.W. Cole Advisors are unaffiliated entities. The opinions expressed by Liz Whitberry should not be construed as specific tax, legal, or investment advice, nor as an offer to buy or sell any securities mentioned herein. Neither J.W. Cole Financial nor its representatives provide legal, tax, or accounting advice. Persons who provide such advice do so in a capacity other than as a registered representative of J.W. Cole. Investing is subject to risks, including the loss of principal. Due to volatility within the markets mentioned, opinions are subject to change without notice. Information is based on sources believed to be reliable, however, their accuracy or completeness cannot be guaranteed.